let's go on over to Canada for a second to talk about the Toronto Blue Jays. Another team that made a good amount of trades during this trade deadline. They got Shane Bieber, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Brandon Valenzuela, Varland. So many players. They've taken another Oriole from me. Such a shame. Not as notable as an Oriole as maybe Ryan O'Hearn, but still an Oriole nonetheless. And the funny thing about that trade, if you want to talk about it, is that they were in the middle of a double header when the trade happened. So, you literally have Dominguez putting on a Blue Jays outfit and leaving the Orioles locker room as this trade just happens in Camden Yards, which I think is the most hilarious thing in the world.
Yeah, I mean, it's in regard to that trade, that was a really smart trade to make for the Blue Jays because everyone and their mother knew they needed bullpen help, and jumping the market like they did a few days early to get Sir Anthony Dominguez, not knowing that obviously they eventually got Louis Varland right at the buzzer, but that was a smart trade to make. But I think the overall haul is one of, it's high risk, high reward. I think, I like Dominguez as a reliever. I think Louis Varland's a really nice pickup for this team. Shane Bieber is the headlining acquisition. He won the 2020 Cy Young Award. He was fantastic for a couple years, had some up and down years. And then obviously last year he had Tommy John surgery. He missed basically all of 2024. This year he's missed the entire season. He had a setback with his injury in June. He hasn't pitched in the major leagues in 16 months. And the Blue Jays gave up a really good prospect, a top 80 guy, to make this trade for Shane Bieber. And so it's again, they needed a starting pitcher, and of the starting pitchers who got traded today, I don't think it's that far, I don't think it's that crazy to say Shane Bieber has the highest upside. It's just the case of their big headlining acquisition is a guy who has not played in the majors in 16 months. It's just that's such a big risk for what's been a really impressive season, and especially this last month or two for the Blue Jays. I don't know if I necessarily love that Shane Bieber was the big move for this team, but at least they made the big move. At least they're, pushed a little bit of the chips in. It wasn't all the way in. They didn't trade for like Joe Ryan or Mackenzie Gore or anything, but they got a starting pitcher who, if he's healthy and if he pitches well, he pretty much immediately becomes the ace of the staff.
I think the other thing to think about too is I think the Blue Jays really needed pitchers, as you kind of mentioned already. Like we already have a power hitting threat. We have Santander. We have, of course, the main, the macho main man, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. And we have other people like Bo Bichette. We have people on our roster that can take care of, defense and offense. I think again, the main problem we had was pitching, and I think getting people like Dominguez, like Bieber, it was the step in the right direction. And just like other teams like the Padres per se, you're only kind of getting rid of potential great players down the road. They're still in the minor leagues for a reason. They haven't been sent up yet because you maybe don't want to risk their potential. They could get an injury very quickly. They're not I don't want to say they're not experienced enough, but maybe they aren't experienced enough. So getting an experienced player like Bieber, like Dominguez, it just seems like a no-brainer at the end of the day for Toronto.
Yeah, no, it's again, this was clearly a season where they were gonna buy at the trade deadline. Yeah, there's sort of a, at least to me, a little bit of a mirroring to a decade ago, back in 2015, when the Blue Jays got David Price at the trade deadline. In that season where they went for the World Series, and I think they topped out in the ALCS. But again, it's just one of those things where the starting pitching market was so expensive this year. I mean, there's a reason why Joe Ryan didn't get traded, Edward Cabrera didn't get traded, Mackenzie Gore didn't get traded. I mean, these guys, Dylan Cease didn't get traded from the Padres. A lot of these big name starters did not get traded because I mean, we saw it with Bieber. I mean, Cal Steven is a top 80 prospect in baseball that the Blue Jays surrendered. That's how it, for a guy, again, who has not pitched in over a year in the majors, it was just a very expensive thing. So I don't blame them for making him, the headlining deal. I do just kind of wish that maybe it was a little safer. Again, this is not a time to play it safe. It's just that this is so much risk in a guy who, if he's not healthy, he has an option at the end of the year. So maybe he'll stay on for next year and be healthy. But if he is healthy and he plays well, then he opts out and then you lose him. It's sort of a lot of moving factors. But overall, I do think this was a strong trade deadline for the Blue Jays. I do really like that they addressed the bullpen multiple times. I like that they got Bieber in. Obviously, they moved Will Wagner out and they brought Ty France in as sort of infield depth, which was a nice move as part of the Louis Varland trade. But ultimately, I think that this deadline is going to be defined by what does Shane Bieber do in Toronto.